Simone, the floor is yours.
So, thank you, Pierre-Louis, and thank you also to IVES to invite me and to give me the possibility to present my research. So, Pierre-Louis said that I started my career on protein precipitation more or less 20 years ago. And from there, all the kind of instability in wines fascinated me, and this is one example. So, quercetin is a polyphenol that belongs to the class of flavonoids, is present in a lot of different vegetables, included grapes, and is present in the skins and also in the leaves. So correctly, Pierre-Louis said that mechanical harvest is one of the reasons of the increase of quercetin in the wines. And quercetin in grapes is present mainly in glycosylated form. The two main forms are glucoside and glucuronide form. Why? This is because the sugar moiety is hydrophilic and so allow the molecule to be more soluble and more easy to be transported in the tissues. And in general, quercetin is produced as a response to stresses, in particular stresses like UV. So I was very interested in the presentation of Sarah this morning because the kaolin probably can be another possible solution so to decrease the intensity of solar irradiation and then quercetin synthesis. And this is the reason. So it's a photoprotector like carotenoids. So the presence is mainly in the leaves and in the skins. There is also a genetic factor because different varieties can, it has been demonstrated that different varieties can have different content of quercetin. There are a lot of papers describing the content of different polyphenols in grapes and in wines. Regarding quercetin, there are two main problems. First of all, generally, the content is measured on wines, not on grapes. And we know that during the winemaking, quercetin undergo transformation, so the wine has not exactly the same composition of grapes. But we can assume that the quercetin, so if we have a high quercetin content in the grapes, we can assume that also in the wine it is high. Another problem is that generally the quantification of quercetin is just confined, limited to quercetin aglycone. That is not the main form present in grapes. And in this work of 2008, it was demonstrated so on wines that some clones of Sangiovese have a higher content of quercetin than other Italian, but also international varieties. But you can see, we are talking about 1 milligram per liter, because it's just quercetin aglycone. In the paper we published in OENO One, we made a comparison with different wines, monovarietal wines produced with the autochthonous Italian varieties. We measure quercetin aglycone, but in the lower part of the graphic, we measure also the glycosidic compounds of quercetin. So you can see the epsilon axis, the quantity is much higher than the aglycone. And in both cases, Sangiovese show to have the highest content of quercetin. So there is also a genetic base. But as Pierre-Louis was talking before, there is also an environmental factor, because also in Tuscany, where Sangiovese is cultivated by many years, the problem of quercetin precipitation started 10 years ago. What changed it? So we say that quercetin is a photoprotector, so the climate change and the global warming increase the solar irradiation. The viticultural practices, so the defoliation, so to increase the exposure, so to increase the sugar content and the anthocyanin content, obviously led to an increase also in quercetin, and also the mechanical harvest and so on. And for now, it seems that this problem is limited to Tuscany, so Chianti and Brunello, that are produced with Sangiovese. But we notice some case of quercetin precipitation also in other regions, in New Zealand, in Oregon, also in California, on Primitivo. So we can expect that in the future, this problem can be more spread all around the world. So we are open to collaboration, so with other groups, because it can be interesting to have a database of quercetin content in different varieties. This can be important. So what is the effect, the final effect? Because quercetin is an antioxidant, so it should be positive to have in wine. We have also some health supplement on the internet, so very rich in quercetin. But in wine, it causes this technological problem. That is, this is the deposit on a Brunello di Montalcino, in the oak barrel after 3 years of storage, of aging, and this is the deposit. Is this gray, sluggish, unpleasant deposit. And one of the problems is that the precipitation is very slow. So you can have the wine clear, your bottle, and the precipitation can happen even years after bottling. What is the reason of precipitation? We say that quercetin is present in grapes mainly in glycosylated forms that are soluble due to the presence of this sugar moiety, and due to enzymatic and also chemical hydrolysis, the quercetin aglycone is released, and without this sugar moiety, the quercetin is very hydrophobic, so become insoluble and precipitate. So this is very new graphic we did with Harvest, is the winery Frescobaldi in Tuscany. So they collected samples during maceration of Sangiovese for 24 days of maceration. And every day we took a sample and analyzed. So we can see that quercetin, aglycone, glucoside and glucuronide started immediately to increase. After 1 week, there is no more increase. This is important because it means that the skins already released all the quercetin they have. But after 1 week, we can notice that the glucoside starts to decrease, probably due to the enzymatic activity of yeast, and quercetin aglycone start to increase. but glucuronide remains stable. And so in 2016, in Italy, in Tuscany, a big project called QuestHub started just to face the problem of quercetin precipitation. And one of the results they published is that PVPP is able to remove quercetin. So we tried in comparison with other products, and we confirmed that PVPP works. So reduce is the only product able to reduce the aglycone form, but there is no effect on the glycosides. So if we make a treatment with PVPP, what happens? At the end of fermentation, we can treat with PVPP, so we decrease the content of quercetin aglycone. We think to have a stable wine. We bottle, and during long time with the enzymatic, not enzymatic, chemical hydrolysis due to low pH, the glucuronide is still a reservoir of quercetin. So glucuronide decrease and aglycone start to increase again. And so we can have a delayed precipitation. So the treatment with the PVPP is just a temporary solution, not definitive. So when a company comes to me with some sample and ask me, so how can we do to solve this problem? My first idea was to use an enzymatic treatment. We tried different enzymatic preparation, just pectolytic enzymes. We know that OIV allowed only glucanase and pectolytic enzymes, but pectolytic enzymes can have secondary activity. And we were lucky. We found a very good enzymatic preparation. So we tried in barrique, Sangiovese, in 3 replicates, in 2 different wineries, in 2 different years, comparing the control with wine treated with these enzymes. And this is the result. So in the control, we can see that quercetin, the total glycosides of quercetin, still decrease. So even in the control, decrease. But this is normal. This is the slow decrease due to chemical degradation. So in 4 months, we pass from 30 to 20 milligrams per liter. But when we add the enzyme, in 3 months, we completely reduce the total glycosidic reservoir of quercetin. What is strange is that we don't notice a so big increase of aglycone. Why? Because aglycone is unstable, is insoluble. So when it is released by the enzymes, it precipitates. So we arrive at the end with a stable wine. So the quercetin aglycone is in equilibrium with this wine. So we can say that this is a definitive effect. It's really definitive because we know the winemaker want to be sure. So what is the minimum quantity, the maximum quantity of quercetin I can have in my wine, and I can be sure. So we try to add external quercetin in increasing step, to different wines, Sangiovese wines. So we saw different behavior. So in this one, the wine is able to keep until 75 milligram of quercetin aglycone without any precipitation. And the precipitation starts only when we arrive to 100 milligram per liter. In this wine, the behavior is completely different. This wine has a lower capacity to keep quercetin in solution. So from this experiment, we can take two main considerations. One is that the precipitation of quercetin is very fast. We measure, so 4 hours, 24 hours, then we measure, obviously, even in the days after, but we didn't notice any increase of turbidity. So it means that quercetin, when it is released by the enzyme, precipitates immediately. This different behavior let us assume that in wine we can have different, also probably colloidal, protective colloids that can act and maintain quercetin in solution. And this open another question. So I'm sure that quercetin is stable. So this quantity of quercetin is in this wine. So in this wine maybe I have 75 milligram of quercetin, and so I can say so it's stable. But after 2-3 years, probably quercetin cannot increase because I eliminated the reservoir. But what that can change are the colloids. So this wine can become unstable, not due to an increase of quercetin, but also to a decrease of protective colloids. This is an open question. So now this enzymatic preparation start to be used in the area of Chianti, and now we are collaborating with different companies just to control the real efficacy of the enzymes, and for now it seems to work well. So thank you for your attention.